and now patio rooms too.
This is CNN.
To our viewers around the world, good afternoon from Washington. I'm Frank Sesno. Hillary Bowker is off today. And today on the International Hour, a new round of fighting hits Sarajevo. CNN's Christiane Amanpour shows us a neighborhood where there's no relief getting through.
Dobrina's mostly Muslim residents are under constant shelling from Serb forces outside. After 3 months of this, people seem less afraid than numb, carrying on with their chores apparently oblivious to the din and the danger.
Also, monetary values placed on people's lives. In India, young girls are sold as brides, while in Thailand, a major slave trading ring forced hundreds of girls into prostitution. But first to Helsinki, Finland, and a meeting of the Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe, where 51 leaders of member nations are gathered to develop a plan to keep the peace in Europe and stop the destruction in what was Yugoslavia. There were strong words from President Bush, who after a meeting with Bosnian President Begovic said help must be sent to the thousands of people suffering in the now independent Republic of Bosnia-Herzegovina.
If our CSCE community is to have real meaning in this new world, let us be of one mind about our immediate aims. First, we should see to it that relief supplies get through no matter what it takes. And second, we should see to it that the United Nations sanctions are respected no matter what it takes. And third, we should do all we can to prevent this conflict from spreading. And fourth, let us call with one voice for the guns to fall silent through a ceasefire on all fronts.
Mr. Bush is not proposing a military response, but Secretary of State James Baker says the United States is considering using air power to neutralize Serbian heavy artillery around Sarajevo. And the Pentagon says 2 U.S. warships are already in the Adriatic Sea. For its part, France says it will send helicopters to be used under UN command and extra troops to help the UN relief operation in Sarajevo. On another front, CSCE leaders have agreed to send fewer than 100 unarmed observers from 8 nations to the former Soviet Union. They would monitor a ceasefire if Azerbaijan and Armenia can be convinced to end their war. We'll have more on the CSCE summit and conference later in the hour. Back in Bosnia, meanwhile, fighting is erupting again in areas around Sarajevo. 3 mortar rounds even hit the city's UN compound. Although aid is starting to reach some suburbs, CNN's Christiane Amanpour shows us one neighborhood still waiting.
The drive into Dobrina is a hair-raising journey along sidewalks, hugging walls, seeking any shelter from sniper fire. Once inside, you find a suburb under siege. Even the UN relief effort hasn't penetrated this enclave, barely 100 yards from the airport. Dobrina's mostly Muslim residents are under constant shelling from Serb forces outside. After 3 months of this, people seem less afraid than numb, carrying on with their chores apparently oblivious to the din and the danger. But the danger is very real. This day, 4 were killed, 40 were wounded. They come to a makeshift hospital where doctors operate with local anesthetic. It's all they have.
We have very serious case here. You know, every day they shoot us with grenade, with bomb, with there is too much snipers. There is too much wounded from snipers.
The fighting lasts from early evening through the night. Whole blocks are set ablaze. Every apartment is a shelter. Families and even the commander of Dobrina's militia huddle inside, wondering whether this will be their unlucky night. I'm so tired of this, he says. Not of the war. I can stand that. I just can't stand seeing all our people die. For everyone here has become a warrior. Men, women, and even children pose proudly with their weapons as if for a family photograph. The youngest have aged beyond their years. They haven't been to school since the war began. They don't venture far from their apartments.
Nije normalno.
This isn't a normal childhood, says Ela. She's just 11 years old. The local militia is hopelessly outgunned. Even the UN presence at the airport across its front line hasn't quelled the combat. The battle for Dobrinja is a fierce one. Now that the Serbs have given up control of the airport, they are cut off from their forces in a suburb on the other side. In order to reach them, they have to take Dobrinja to punch a corridor through. For months, Serb cleansing squads have been trying to clear out Dobrinja's Muslims. We must purify that area, says this Serb soldier. So far, they haven't been able to, but with each passing day, the Muslims here are wondering how much longer they can hold out. Christiana Manpour, CNN, Dobrinja.
In the United States now, Democratic presidential candidate Bill Clinton has put an end to all the speculation and announced his running mate, fellow Southerner Albert Gore, the senator from Tennessee. The selection suggests the Democrats plan to make the South a key battleground in the November race against President Bush and most likely Ross Perot. Both men spoke today of wresting the family values theme away from Republicans, and both the Democrats appealed to the voters they call ordinary Americans.
I said I wanted a vice president who really understood what had happened to ordinary Americans in the last 12 years. Someone who was committed to making government work again for average, hardworking American families. I said I wanted a vice president who would complement me and my own experiences and bring other experiences, knowledge, and understanding to our common endeavor.
We have watched for 12 long years as the Republican administration, still in power, has driven this country into the ditch. The time has come for all Americans to get off the sidelines, to get involved in the process, to be a part of the healing this country needs, to bring us together, not divide us one from another, to get to work on the changes for the average working people of this country.
This programming note, at 4:30 Eastern Time today, CNN will bring you a special one-hour edition of Inside Politics with a look at the Democratic ticket. Well, NASA's longest space shuttle mission ended this morning in Florida. The shuttle Columbia landed at Kennedy Space Center after spending 14 days in space. Bad weather forced the cancellation of a planned touchdown at Edwards Air Force Base in California and extended Columbia's record-setting flight by a day. NASA officials say the mission helped pave the way for future space station operations. Meanwhile, 2 Russian cosmonauts are still very much up in the air on board the space station Mir. They took this spacewalk yesterday. During their 2-hour walk, they activated new gyroscopes sent to the Mir in an unmanned spacecraft. The gyroscopes will help stabilize the aging space station, which was launched back in 1986. The 2 cosmonauts currently on board the Mir have been in space for more than 3.5 months. Meanwhile, the European Space Agency is getting ready to send another rocket into space. Final preparations are underway in French Guiana for tonight's launch of an Ariane V-51 rocket. The rocket will carry 2 communication satellites into orbit. And just ahead this hour, heartache for hundreds of young girls from Burma. Promises of a better life lead instead to a life of prostitution. And later, a city in southern India where the commodity is child brides.
Morning breath.
As soon as I have my coffee, it's all gone.
Whether you admit it or not, it's a problem.
Okay, I have morning breath, but it doesn't bother anyone.
Don't be so sure.
Mine's not so bad.
Morning breath's not as bad as you think. It's worse. So get Scope. Its 2 powerful ingredients kill 90% of the bacteria that cause morning breath.
Was my morning breath really that bad?
There's no denying morning breath, so save your breath with Scope.
We were having fun until Thomas put in our new money management program.
Select your investments.
All these investment categories popped up.
Stocks, bonds, T-bills.
That's easy. We only have one.
Why?
That's when I wondered, does everyone have all these?
Common sense says any investment plan should be diversified, and Fidelity Investments, America's largest mutual fund company, can make it easy.
Last night, it really hit us.
This place sounds like Wall Street tonight.
We can barely keep up with our work, let alone our investments. That's when I decided I'm going to find something that can do it all.
I'm going to do some research.
You can make just one investment in Fidelity Asset Manager, a mutual fund that gradually adjusts its portfolio for changing markets with no sales charge. It can be great for an IRA, too. So call Fidelity now for a free fact kit on how to diversify in one easy step with Fidelity Asset Manager. Call 1-800-356-8100. Fidelity Investments. Common sense. Uncommon results.
Listen up, team. You want to keep your sandwiches fresh? Use Ziploc brand sandwich bags with the Gripper Zipper. Tough, tiny teeth you can feel gripping, so you know freshness is locked in. Let's win one for the Gripper. There's only one Ziploc.
Are you finding it harder and harder to get home in time to watch the evening news?
And that's the news. Good night.
What's the rush? Headline News gives you the latest news, business, and sports around the clock.
A major sex slave trading ring involving hundreds of girls has been cracked by police in Thailand. The girls from Burma apparently were lured with the promise of factory jobs, but instead were forced into prostitution. We get the story now from CNN's Tom Intier.
The raids were conducted in 4 brothels some 700 kilometers south of Bangkok. The 70 young Burmese women, some barely in their teens, were rescued by Thai government officials and police during a crackdown against forced prostitution. The women, mostly recruited from Rangoon and smuggled across the border of Thailand by bogus employment agents, said they did not know they were to be sold as sex slaves to Thai brothel operators. A woman came to my village, she says, and purchased 5 girls. We were told that we would be working in a Thai factory making dresses. My mother doesn't know I became a prostitute. This woman says her mother sold her to the agent for the equivalent of just $200 US. The agent told her mother she would be working in a factory and would be able to send money back home from her paycheck. I had no choice, she says. I had no money after they brought me here. I had been working as a prostitute for 4 months. My parents were paid money thinking I would be working as a sales girl. Instead, I had to do this. An organization was recently set up in Thailand to assist these victims of forced prostitution. Those under the age of 16 will be removed from police custody and placed in a center for protection and medical treatment. All will be tested for AIDS before being sent home. They will not be turned over to Burmese authorities.
No, never.
Why?
Because if they knew about this situation, maybe they will kill them.
You think they would kill them?
Maybe.
Some prostitutes infected with the AIDS virus had been previously returned to Rangoon, and there were reports that some had been injected with cyanide and their bodies dumped in a river. These 2 men are accused by police of operating the brothels where the girls were forced to work. This man claims he did not purchase the girls, but allowed them to stay at his hotel and collected half of the money they made working there. The raid by Thai police officers on the brothels in southern Thailand marked the second time in as many weeks such an operation is taking place in an effort to curb forced prostitution. In the previous raid, at least a half a dozen girls from the People's Republic of China were rescued and then sent back home. That resulted in Chinese police officials coming to Thailand to work with the government in an effort to find at least 500 more young women believed to have been sold into slavery as prostitutes. Tom Intier, CNN, Bangkok.
And in the Philippines, a major crackdown is underway in Manila's red light district as the city's new mayor launches a drive to change its image. The mayor and police officers raided suspected prostitution dens, padlocking them and posting closed notices on the doors. The mayor says he wants to transform the Philippine capital from a city of sin to a place suitable for visiting families. The southern Indian city of Hyderabad is a center for trade in child brides. Girls as young as 12 are sold for just a few $100s. Adrian Brown has more on the disturbing practice and what's being done to stop it.
It could be just another group of wealthy Arab visitors checking into a 5-star hotel. They tell you they're here for medical treatment or to shop. Except this is the city of Hyderabad in southern India, a center for the trade in Muslim child brides. She is only 12, but already Armina has been married and divorced. Today she's back with her uncle and 7 brothers and sisters, trying to regain her childhood. Last August, they thought they'd seen the last of her when she was sold by her father to a 60-year-old Arab for just $400. It is not a conventional wedding picture. Armina's eyes are those of a girl who had absolutely no choice in what would happen to her. In the end, though, there was a choice. Armina was on her way to Saudi Arabia with her new elderly husband when she was rescued by an airline stewardess. He insisted he thought she was 18, even though she was traveling on a child's passport. Today, Armina's uncle says she's still a virgin, and so within her society she can remarry. A few streets away, a young girl who may not be so lucky. For Mariam Begum, innocence ended at 15 when she was married to an Arab policeman. But 56-year-old Mubarak Khalifa left her 10 days after the ceremony. That was 5 years ago, and she's still waiting for him to return. We thought marriage to an Arab would improve our lot, but it didn't, says the mother. Under Islamic law, marriage for a Muslim girl who's reached puberty is legal, provided the family and her husband have consented. The majority of Hyderabad's Muslims are poor and illiterate, and so Western notions of marriage do not necessarily apply here.
What the fathers expect is to settle the girl in such a manner that she has a greater economic security. In terms of the prioritization, it's not so much the compatibility that is looked into.
By night, direct flights from the Middle East bring more single men, undeterred by the outcry over the trade in Muslim child brides. The visitor doesn't have to tour the city looking for his wife-to-be. There are middlemen who do it for him. Some operate from this hotel in the heart of the city. Ali Saadi is one such broker. He claims to have provided thousands of local brides, but denies being paid for his service. I just want to help poor Muslim families, he says.
What I'm doing is not exploitation. In fact, I'm very proud of what I'm trying to do, because I'm helping poor girls from this city find, good husbands in the Middle East, so that they are well settled.
The father of these sisters is also hoping they'll be well settled soon. They share a 3-room home with their parents, 4 brothers and 3 other sisters. Despite the disadvantages of growing up in such humble surroundings, Hazira Begum, who's 15, is scoring top marks at school. But she and her 14-year-old sister, Zakirk, are also of marriageable age.
What do you think about local Muslim girls that end up marrying Arabs who are 60 years old?
I've seen many of the girls marrying 60-year-old Arabs in Hyderabad, World City.
And what do these girls say about their marriages? Are they happy?
No, some of them are not happy and some of them are happy. After the 30 or 40 years, the Arabs may die. Again, they marry for Arabs. It is not nice for them.
But the final decision rests with the father.
We don't want the money.
Many fathers, though, do need the money. And among the Muslim poor, an adolescent daughter is often the most valuable asset. Adrian Brown for CNN in Hyderabad, southern India.
Before you really buy something, you should thoroughly investigate it. I took a chance this time and try to save a couple of dollars.
I found that the service wasn't there, so I went to AT&T and stayed with AT&T.
I don't want gimmicks. I want a long-distance phone company I can count on.
If you miss dealing with a long-distance company you can depend on, it's easy to come back to AT&T. Call 1-800-862-6555 and we'll switch you for free.
And I've tried every long-distance phone company that's out there.
After a few months, I said, forget it. I'm giving up on this. And I wanted to switch back to AT&T.
And I mean, I really feel that AT&T gives me the best service. for what I want.
People who've seen what's out there are coming back for the service they deserve. Call AT&T right now, and we'll have you back in no time.
And the reason we switched initially was because of the, we're going to see this dramatic drop in our phone bill, and we didn't.
I mean, what's the point? They can't offer me substantially cheaper rates from what I've seen.
At AT&T, when we promise you savings, you get them. In fact, nobody gives you more ways to save. Come back now for free.
And it was just like a hassle figuring out both bills, both sets, and so we just said, hey, we just scrapped it and just now we get one phone bill and that's it. It's a lot easier to pay.
I think the reason I've stayed with AT&T is because it's always been easy.
AT&T makes everything easy, even switching back. Call now.
If I'm going to call my sister up in Canada, I want to hear, her voice, and if she sighs, I want to hear it. So I use AT&T.
I really...
1-800-862-6555. For the service and quality only AT&T guarantees. Right now, we'll switch you for free. What a great time to come back.
As we said earlier, Bosnia's President Alija Izetbegovic asked European leaders today to help restore order in his country. He spoke to the Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe, meeting in Helsinki. The West is ready to make sure aid gets through, but as CNN's Charles Bierbauer reports, Bosnia wants more.
Bosnia's plea for help was cast with the hope of prodding, perhaps even shaming this forum into action.
Is the world powerless to put an end to the evil? And should the world be satisfied with completing its task by granting charity to the suffering human beings?
Bosnia has been under siege for months as Yugoslavia tears itself apart. Serbs, Croats, and Muslims are fighting there, but the international community has pointed its finger of blame at Serbia, denied Yugoslavia's seat at this summit of the European Security Conference. The conference itself is defining its post-Cold War role. The U.S. is anxious to have that include peacekeeping, with NATO, the U.S.-led alliance, leading the way. Bosnian President Izetbegovic urged President Bush to go beyond peacekeeping to peacemaking.
I didn't ask for troops because I know that they don't like such a kind of... But I insisted that the aircraft can help in destroying of the heavy artillery and heavy weapons, especially the concentration around Sarajevo.
President Bush has shown no interest in getting the U.S. that deeply into the troubles. The action Bush proposes is limited to pushing humanitarian aid through.
First, we should see to it that relief supplies get through no matter what it takes. And second, we should see to it that the United Nations sanctions are respected no matter what it takes.
Some have felt that it's not likely that we would see American combat troops on the ground in Bosnia, but that we might more likely see as a contribution from this country the provision of air and naval power.
2 U.S. warships are moving back into the Adriatic Sea to underscore the president's commitment to getting relief to Bosnia. Bush also urged the conference to speak with one voice in calling for a ceasefire. Speaking with authority is new to much of this body.
They have authority, but the problem is to find some means to make this authority decisive, yeah.
And for Bosnia's sake, quick. This is a dramatically changed Europe where many nations did not exist as little as a year ago. And some, especially Bosnia, are hoping that their new existence will not be short-lived. Charles Bierbauer, CNN, Helsinki.
Well, trying to manage the post-Cold War world is proving to be a huge challenge given the explosion of nationalistic and ethnic tensions. And so the CSCE has decided on action in another part of the former Soviet Union. German Foreign Minister Klaus Kinkel says peacekeepers will be sent to Nagorno-Karabakh. Armenia and Azerbaijan have fought over the region for the last 4 years. The European peace team will be made up of less than 100 observers, and they won't go until Armenia and Azerbaijan can be convinced to observe a ceasefire. And in another troubled region, Georgia, rebels have kidnapped the deputy prime minister. Supporters of deposed President Zviad Gamsakhurdia blew up the official's car, then took him hostage. The attack took place in western Georgia, a stronghold for Gamsakhurdia. The former president was overthrown in January. Since then, his supporters have waged a low-level guerrilla war on government positions. Russia's youth doing anything to make a ruble, even if it's against the law, when we return. We'll also tell how economic hard times are creating a new breed of juvenile criminals in the changing Moscow.
If you have any comments about our program, please write to The International Hour, P.O. Box 740166, Atlanta, Georgia, 30374, 0166.
Jane, you ignorant slut.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night.
Right you are, Chevy. Every night can be Saturday night with this all-new home video collection packed with the funniest moments from each year of Saturday Night Live. A collection you can only get from Time Live Video. You'll see all those classic characters. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I am Beldar.
Well, isn't that special?
We are the Wild and Crazy Guys. Your collection starts with the 1975 season, starring the original not ready for primetime players in their first year at the exceptionally low price of just $9.99. That's $10 off. Other videos will follow, one about every 6 weeks. Buy only the ones you want. So no matter who you are,
I'm Gumby then,
or what you are,
Killer Bee.
call toll-free now to get your first video for half price, just $9.99. The call is free.
Hello.
It's the best of Saturday Night Live, and it's time to laugh again with the not ready for primetime players. So call now.
Nothing but stars. So long, everybody.
To order, call 1-800-346-8400 or send $9.99 plus $3.23 shipping and handling to Best of Saturday Night Live, P.O. Box 1880, Department 02, Alexandria, Virginia.
You already know this, New York, and this. But how about this? I'm Jeannie Mose. It's tongue-in-cheek, it's offbeat, it's an experience that is mostly New York. A CNN special, Friday at 10:30 p.m. only on CNN.
New reports of intrigue in Iraq. Today's New York Times reports that Saddam Hussein is conducting a purge of his military after an assassination attempt. The paper cites an American intelligence report. 4 Republican Guard officers are said to have planned an attack on Saddam, but were intercepted by his personal security guards. Reportedly, more than 200 officers have been purged, some of them executed. The standoff continues between Iraqi officials and UN weapons inspectors. Meanwhile, Iraq's Minister of Agriculture says there are no weapons or military secrets inside his ministry, and he refuses to allow UN inspectors access. Another round of talks designed to break the stalemate is expected today. The UN Security Council has ordered Iraq to allow the inspectors in. Iraq says that would infringe upon its sovereignty. Alleged brutality inside Iraq figured prominently in today's annual report issued by Amnesty International. The human rights group claims Iraqi government troops last year tortured and killed thousands of Kurds and Shiite Muslims. 3 years after the Tiananmen Square massacre, China continues to draw condemnation from Amnesty International as well. The group claims millions of people were illegally detained in 1991, thousands executed, yet Beijing still receives favorable treatment from the Bush administration.
China, 1/5 of the world's population. Our government seems to like them, really. They seem to be the good communists, or, you know, they sort of favorable trade negotiations, things are going to improve. In the meanwhile, they're crushing their dissidents, and they're torturing and killing people.
Thailand drew harsh criticism for this spring's bloody government crackdown. Nearly 800 people are still reported missing. And the U.S. was condemned for its policy of capital punishment. Currently, more than 2,500 inmates are on death row in U.S. prisons. And coming up later in the hour on CNN World Report with Relitsa Vasileva, Macedonia's political crisis worsens as Parliament votes no confidence in the government. And Barcelona prostitutes get less than Olympic welcomes from city officials.
International Hour continues, followed by Early Prime after this local commercial break. Next on CNN.
Beginning Monday, Bernard Shaw, Catherine Cryer, and CNN's election team take you beyond gavel to gavel at the Democratic National Convention with complete live convention coverage.